Bipartisan pushing Congress for full Epstein files.
A bipartisan push to force the Trump administration to release all unclassified records about deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
It's the force of law, and it's got protections to redact victims' names and to prevent, release of child pornography.
President Trump is struggling to shake off a controversy over Epstein he once stoked, but now calls a hoax and a Democratic con job.
I'm focused on making deals. I'm not focused on conspiracy theories that you are.
Sources previously told ABC News the Justice Department devoted about 1,000 people to reviewing the Epstein files. Speaker Mike Johnson sending members of the House home until September to avoid a vote on the issue.
I'll tell you what's politically going to be a liability is if we don't vote on this and we go into the midterms and everybody just check out because Republicans didn't keep their promise in Donald Trump, we'll lose the majority.
Massey's Democratic co-sponsor Ro Khanna said Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell should testify before Congress. But he said given her past statements, the Justice Department should also release the files.
I have skepticism, given she was indicted of perjury, given she has a motive for getting a pardon.
After Maxwell was convicted of trafficking, the perjury charges were not pursued. President Trump has said he's not thinking about a pardon for Maxwell, but he has not ruled it out.
I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
Maxwell, who is serving 20 years for sex trafficking Epstein's victims, met for 9 hours over 2 days last week in Florida with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Sources told ABC News she initiated the meeting and received limited immunity for the statements she made. Her attorney said she did not ask for a pardon and none was offered. If the meeting between Maxwell and Todd Blanche was recorded, and meetings between witnesses and law enforcement officials often are, there will no doubt be a clamor, George, for its release. And Congressman Massey told us he expects pressure on the administration to only build during the summer recess to release the files.
That's right,
see how
Mr.
it plays out.
Massey.
Okay, thanks very much.
Been briefed on the Epstein files, but or your name has not appeared in the Epstein.
Oh, this is where he said the planted thing, I bet.
Have to tell you if your name is.
Well, I haven't been overly interested in it. It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people.
What?
If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like,
All right,
as an
there you
example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake.
Is that what we
They
call
can
it?
put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down? And then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about it. She was a horrible vice president.
I mean, good question.
She was a border czar, but she never
Perhaps-
went to the border. She never won.
Good question. Perhaps the exact same reason as to why you won't release the files as well, which is that it's mutually assured pedophilia. It's MAP. That's what I call it. It's like, yeah, because
I mean, it is like just super funny because like he's like in this like weird trap and he's not really figured out a way out of it where he's like responding to the criticism as if it's coming from the left. When we all know that the loudest, most angry people about this
are his guys.
Exactly. Like it's people who like have like fat heads of Dan Bongino on their wall or whatever.
And we love those brave patriots. Make no
Absolutely.
mistake. We think those brave patriots are right.
I want them to do a Harper's Ferry on like every single Republican like office looking for the trafficked children.
Yeah.
I would encourage this.
Yes. They demand answers. They are perfectly right to demand answers.
And I think, you know,
They need to uncover the global pedophilia conspiracy.
And if people were around with children, then these guys should find out about it.
Yeah. So just remember that.
I do think the idea, though, of it's like there could be phony stuff in there. And it's like, well, the problem now, though, is like it's your people are demanding it. So and you floated the phony stuff thing. So is it like, is that your new line that like all this stuff is faked? And like, will that persuade anybody? I think I said this to you the other day that like, I believe that this stuff is symptomatic of why the right-wing base cannot hold together on like a grounds of shared ideological interest forever, like material basis of what, aside, like they just can't. You can't sustain these things. Like you hit a wall at a certain point because like there's literally photos with him. Like unless you are truly, you're willing, you're able to go with like, all right, Trump was a white hat, whatever. But at the same time, I think that that's like a longer process of like schism. Like I don't think that this is.
No, it's not happening overnight.
Exactly. Like it's going to take time, and as a result, what's happening now is this like incredibly weird situation where Trump will still be and viewed as, and by his base accepted as the leader of the party. And there is not going to be an alternative from the right. But what is happening now is the part of the process by which like his project will become, either, if not discredited, abandoned, and then, reclaimed way down the line when it can just be like debated as legacy. And Trump is probably dead.
Michael Tracy is so funny. He has to be a perma-contrarian, so he's taken another contrarian position on the Epstein stuff.
Well, isn't he like, I thought he's like taking the Epstein stuff seriously, but his like, he only can speak in that contrarian tone. So he's like, well, there's a responsible way to look at this, but these guys are loony because they made a sign.
Yeah. But no. He says like the victims are fabulous as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've seen him say like some of the more prominent outspoken victims of Jeffrey Epstein are actually liars, serial liars.
I mean, well, that's the typical Michael Tracy delicate charm that we all know and love. That just fine rhetorical finesse. I liked your chatter's comment that it looked like Silent Hill, Ohio.
It's called the Border Patrol agent to find out how we're doing, but she was the border czar. Her name was Kamala. Nobody knows her last name. It was Harris, but nobody knew her last name. So I ended up, how would you like to end up in a race where you're killing somebody, you're beating him, and then they say, all right, we'll take him out. He's not working. Let's put somebody else. And then she had a 6-week honeymoon.
You know what's really funny? He does not bring up.
It was
why
amazing.
He
They
went
predicted
out. Like,
she will have a 6-week honeymoon, and she
he
did.
was so down in the polls,
and then she
got
slaughtered.
Like, I think he really can't bring up.
But
Like,
think of it.
It's because he was
those
old. His
files
brain
were
was
run
bad.
by these
'Cause his
people. They
brain
were
is
run by
bad.
my
Exactly.
enemy.
Exactly.
If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election. Yeah.
Do you think that drawing, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report,
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
you think it was fraudulent?
I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, would you draw a building? And I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, for a charity stuff. But I'm not a drawing person.
Sometimes I draw, but I'm not a drawing person. Sometimes I draw. Yeah, because they were saying that you did the Mona Lisa in that birthday thing, not just like the lady version of the thing from The Big Lebowski where the guy draws like a guy with a huge dick on a notepad, like for sure.
Yeah. I don't draw.
Also, his signature is pretty much a drawing. Like it's such a distinctive, like it's an artistic signature.
He's a doodler. Not much is true. He's a doodler. He's a big doodler.
I do drawings of women. That I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And also, Epstein was always a very controversial guy. I was at a very high position, pretty much all my life. In all fairness, I've been doing this for a long time. I had the top show on television. I had the #1 bestsellers. I had everything, right? And I was a very successful business guy. He was a very controversial. Who would do a controversial drawing? Now, with that being said,
You,
dude.
back then you were on his ass cheeks.
Also,
dude.
like, grab him by the pussy, man. Like, don't, like, it is crazy how, like, we just know that you're you're a seedy mother, dude. Like, we know it.
He is a sleazeball. Like, that's part of the reason why, that's part of his appeal. Like, he's supposed to be like a poor man's idea of what they would do if they got to that power, a position of power. Like, I don't get it. Now he's trying to be like all proper. When did this happen?
say there were many letters done by many people, and in many big
so
people.
there are letters and they
big,
are real.
successful
Yours
people.
just might and you're.
I just
What
don't,
is his
when you
reasoning
when you
here?
talk about files, I just keep going back, and other people too. Even the enemy says this thing is not correct. Because if we had
And
it,
it's
we would have
valid
used
when
it
they
on the
say it
guy.
now,
It's a
only
bad
now for
issue.
this issue.
They say it's a good issue for Trump. Do you know that my poll numbers are up 4.5 points since this ridiculous Epstein stuff? My poll numbers have gone up 4.5 points because people don't buy it.
People love
People don't
pedophiles.
buy it.
Pressing X for doubt.
And he's
on that
gone,
one.
and we want to focus on trade deals. I want to focus on the deal we just made with the European Union, which is the biggest trade deal in history. It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal. So if they would have had something, they would have used it.
And
Yeah.
people keep writing stories about the time he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain.
Oh, yeah, this
but I
I
don't
heard
want to
about.
waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, "Don't ever
That's
do
the
that
thing.
again."
He did
stole
something inappropriate. He stole staff from me. That's the breach. It wasn't sex stuff. He's such a dumbass, dude. He's such a dumbass. Why open your mouth on? It's awesome. He doesn't know what to say. Like it's.
I'm sorry. I did not hear this one. This is.
Yeah, dude.
I know he says it's a privilege to go to the island, and I didn't go. Like, but he hired help.
Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, "Don't ever do that again." He stole people that work for me. I said,
Did he think that this was like an appropriate way to say like that's why we cut ties? Is that
No,
what it-
it's yes, because think about it from his like like stupid little reptile brain. What he's thinking
'Cause he
is like,
doesn't wanna
listen, they think that we broke they think that we had a breach because he wouldn't let me have sex with my favorite girl. But no, it wasn't actually because of that. It was because my like junior assistant secretary of what have you, he stole away to be like his new cabana girl at the Palm Beach house or whatever. Like that's like he thinks that is because it's like a it's a clean thing that it's like it's a good answer when obviously there's only one answer. If you are going to give an answer, there's only one answer that you should give, which is I stopped talking to him when I learned that he was a pedophile.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's simple.
It's like saying you cut ties with Adolf Hitler because you didn't like his drawings. Like what the and people are like calling into question your deep allegiance to him. Just say it's like all of the other
he has a real like again, this is it's look, I'm glad I'm not Charlie Clerk and it's not my job to like have to figure out how to like contort
when
on
he was
this.
saying inappropriate, I thought he was gonna say like, pedophilia. Like he's gonna bring it up in the classic Trump way where he like can't message it correctly like he's a human being and not like a rapacious scumbag sociopath, because he does have a way with words when it comes to like talking about like tricky situations where he'll be like, yes, all of these little girls drowned, highest amount of drowning of little girls from the standpoint of water. It's like, dude, that's crazy. I thought he was gonna do that. He was gonna be like, oh, it's inappropriate that he was like trying to little girls. Nope, hired my masseuse.
"Don't ever do that again." He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege
That's right.
of going
We need to be
his
talking
island.
about Larry Summers'
No, you
connections
missed
to
it.
Epstein more.
You missed it. He said, I never had the privilege to go to the
Oh
island.
no, I heard the privilege comment earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
28 times.
I saw some of the
I
headlines.
never went to
about
the
this.
island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island.
He then has to say like, no, you don't understand. I was invited to Pedophile Island.
But it's also he just said two contradictory things. It was a privilege, and a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited.
yeah.
Like I can't.
It was a privilege. I was invited. I just chose not to go.
I think it's a good test.
It's classic.
I think it's a good test, though, of like it doesn't sound like Jeffrey Epstein was necessarily like the coolest or most attractive guy. However, like there's certain people who it's like there's like, oh yeah, like if you want to come like hang out on my private island with this mysterious guy who we don't really know how he makes his money, but he seems a little weird. Like most people are like, you know what, pass. I'll pass on that one. And then other people are like, sign me up. I love private islands, and I don't care about the mystery of how somebody acquired one. And I can totally believe that somebody like Trump gets it mixed up on the level of like remembering like why like that this isn't seen as a good thing necessarily.
I will say, like any other person making this kind of an argument would get understandable ire from their base of support. They'd be like, what do you mean a lot of your best friends went to the pedophile island and you were invited and you're calling it a privilege? But Donald Trump is the guy that doesn't get that kind of scrutiny in a situation like this, even though he's failing spectacularly.
Well, he also doesn't get the scrutiny, I think, because like he's such a weird personal dude. Like his public persona for the last 20 years has been that he seems like he's ace. He also has this like extremely
Wait, we got a defender. Hasan Abi, the way you were covering it, like it's a serious thing and not mere sarcasm, hurts your credibility as well. Just let it go. We have a Turkish Donald Trump defender in the chat saying, oh, he was just being sarcastic, dude. Calm down.
I'll be honest. It's like, I don't think he was like seriously trying to call it an honor. That's why it's like that guy's tweet is correct about it being a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Like that you are like, I don't know how to stress this enough. If you're the president of the United States, even if like you're like trying to get around like, you know, if you're just trying to get out of this, I have a really hard time believing that, saying like, look, I never had the privilege
of going to the pedophilia island.
Right, as you're also describing all the other like powerful people who went there. Like it's not, I don't know what to say, man. Like it's just not the way to express that.
He wasn't being sarcastic. He said it was a privilege. But this... like for anybody else, you could have a little bit more charity, but for a guy who's been photographed with Jeffrey Epstein a million times, for a guy who literally unceremoniously, uncharacteristically said, Ghislaine Maxwell, I wish her well, after she was charged with pedophilia, sex trafficking.
Yeah, he like loses like again, like it would. I could see it like if you were trying to be funny in the context of the rest of these remarks too, but he wasn't. Like he's earnestly pleading his case about why he shouldn't be considered an Epstein associate or whatever.
Yeah.
Say la pedo.
That chatter believes JD Vance.
I guess I'm going to be that person. There are some protesters outside accusing the GOP of protecting pedophiles, and we're wondering what you think are the reasons the U.S. government should shield the client list of Epstein from the public, and what you...
They're saying you were not invited to the island because your vibes are fucked, man. They're saying you were uninvited from the pedophilia island because your vibes were too bad for the rest of the pedophiles. It's a great honor. It's a great honor and a privilege. But they invited me. I said no.
You have to say about any relevance to that here today?
Well, let me say just a couple of things. First of all,
God, his like fake enthusiasm and like millennial speak makes me so angry.
First of all, president.
Oh, shucks. I guess we stepped into it, huh?
Been very clear, we're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general
also
to release all credible information, and frankly, to go and find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that stuff. You've got to redact some victims' names so that you protect the victims. But the president has been very clear. He wants full transparency. He's asked that from the attorney general, and I know because I talk to her all the time, the attorney general is hard at work on that issue right now. But I think I got to make an observation that there's an interesting thing about this case that the American media seems to totally ignore. For 4 years under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20 years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years,
like
you
him
had
imitating
Obama
like
and
like
George
Trump.
W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full...
Dog, you can say there were many Jeffrey Epstein affiliates in Barack Obama's circle, which is true. But Barack Obama was not caught on camera with Jeffrey Epstein. It's
Donald
that simple.
Trump told New York Magazine that Jeffrey Epstein is a great guy and
Who
that
loves
everybody
young girls.
It's that simple, man.
Like, it's wild.
Like, it's that simple. Why? Like, it's also it's not like they even can like deflect. I mean, this is where I suppose like it's, you know, it goes back to like that thing from the movie last night of like that Roy Cohn bit about like one of the lessons that Trump supposedly learned from him, which is just like attack, attack, attack.
And never admit defeat.
Admit nothing, deny everything, claim victory, regardless. And it's like that kind of only works when like you don't have like, I mean, you know, again, because it's like
a mountain of implication, a mountain of
because ultimately, by the way,
you.
how does like Roy Cohn like get away with the situation they're in when like Roy Cohn's like you thought the rules didn't apply to you? They just have to do blackmail. Like you have to do blackmail.
Sexual blackmail.
Yeah, that's true. It is sexual blackmail.
It's interesting, isn't it?
There's just no like you can't undo this. You can't put like this toothpaste back in the tube. So the idea that you would try and like recast it as like a winning issue against the Democrats, like. You created this mess, and you hired people who are way too incompetent to be able to figure out how to do like a limited hangout to defang it as an issue with your own base. Like, sorry, Pam Bondi, stupid. Sorry, you made Kash Patel the head of the FBI. Sorry, you made Dan Gino, whatever. You made him like deputy head of the FBI. These are not smart people. These are not people who are capable of like effectuating the cover up.
They're loyalists who the Trump administration thought were making a brilliant move in hiring so they could just like communicate to the masses, thinking that the masses care about these guys as like individual. These guys are individually charismatic.
That like what
and not what they were talking about that made them. Figures in this movie,
yeah, or the idea that like they would have credibility as people, that their audiences would say like, hey, listen, this guy is saying that there's nothing in the Epstein files anymore, so back the fuck off. Like, well, it's him and he's saying it, so we'll just go along with that. Like if that was their theory,
like,
if that was their theory of how this would go down, then like they're extraordinarily.
Oh, you don't get it. That's Dan Bongino. That's my goat. Of course, I'm not going to question Dan Bongino.
I mean, I just don't.
They're questioning Trump. Trump is way cooler than Dan Bongino.
They must have just thought that this wouldn't blow up. They must have just thought that everybody understood it was a fake issue. It was kayfabe. It was not like meant to actually be challenged. It was just a way to like beat the Democrats over the head. And then they, made a mistake.
Kaya, what is this? This is new. This is new stuff coming from you. What is going on with you? Huh? What's going on with you? Kaya camera shy today? No, this is worse. She wants to be on camera. She wants to get away and then get pets.
Transparency. You ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency.
Trump is a part of that. Trump is a part of the 20 years.
I mean, but this is the thing. The Trump first term didn't exist. You have to remember that. It actually didn't happen. And when it did happen, it was good. And they did everything right. But all of the things that happened, like the delayed arrest of Jeffrey Epstein or whatever, like that's all fake. That's fake news. And stop talking about it. Por favor. Thank you.
He's got a point. Trump definitely didn't go easy on Epstein. He killed him. How dare you say that? That's his best friend. That's literally his best friend. He did not kill his best friend. Okay? No shot.
I mean, would you believe that the guy who's like sucking up to Billy Bush of all people about how cool it is to grope women is like above being pals with Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know. It's a tough one.
No, I like Trump has always struck me as the type of person who's like desperate for that New York societal elite like nod, and a big part of his like cultural resentment against his big part of his like resentment against the cultural elite stem from the reality that they always thought he was too nouveau riche, that he was too crass, he was too unkempt, and he wasn't like a real old money type of person. And for that reason, I think like he saw Jeffrey Epstein as his like way in to that circle. Like he thought, oh, this guy who has a lot of cultural cachet, who's like constantly around like other very wealthy people, and you know, scientists and stuff like that. Like that's my way in.
I wouldn't go that far. I think that Epstein is himself also I think Epstein and Trump have more in common as like outsiders than they do as like
Kaya, what are you doing? Blaze, that's crazy. She just every single time we start talking, she's like, all right, this is my opportunity. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think what Epstein like offered Trump or something was like, I mean, based on what we know about the nature of their relationship, was like a shared appreciation in a social sense. Like Trump is a guy who ran Miss Universe, and as we, like he's very involved in that, as we know. And Epstein was a guy who, like they're both involved in modeling. They're both involved in I mean, like we know that like they're both homeowners in Palm Beach, let's say. I think that there's a Trump was probably more useful to somebody like Jeffrey Epstein than vice versa. What's just so absurd is, and what the position that they're taking was that there was any positive aspect to their relationship at all that was related to the things that Jeffrey Epstein got up to, seemingly vocationally, and Trump as well, in terms of things like modeling and real estate and investment, or, again, socializing. I don't think Trump we know is a teetotaler, and his perversions were pretty specific or limited to people like we know about the Stormy Daniels case and stuff like that. Yeah. But it doesn't strike me. I don't know. What seems most significant about the Epstein Trump thing is not anything that we know about the specifics of their relationship or how Trump may have interacted with Epstein himself, but it's the extent to which like Trump seems incapable of being honest about whatever it was, and how now as a result we have stuff like JD Vance talking about how actually it's a Democrat problem.
Dude, this is so funny. Are you going to address the Joey Swole situation with him cosplaying as Hulk Hogan and then downplaying his racism?
You're going to need to...
Joey Swole is like a content creator who goes viral every now and then for talking about like gym etiquette. And someone wanted me to address, I guess, a situation where he, I suspect, dressed up as Hulk Hogan to honor his passing or something. And that's so funny because it's like...
I mean, Hulk Hogan is not a...
This is so outside of my realm of interest. I don't care.
It's pretty funny.
I can't begin to explain to you how little I give a how little I give a about Joey Swole or Hulk Hogan. Oh my God. That is so funny. Do you not like Hulk Hogan? I don't give a shit about Hulk Hogan. I don't think he's a good guy. I think he's a bad dude. Or was a bad dude. But what's interesting about it is if there's one guy that I care even less than Hulk Hogan on is Joey Swole.
Telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide, and that's why he's been an advocate for full transparency in this case. He's going to keep on being an advocate for full transparency. But while we're focused on that case, Donald J. Trump is also worried about making sure these great workers get more take-home pay and better jobs, and that's the focus of the administration. Thank you.
Can you address the situation of my parents enforcing strict lights out at 9 p.m. in parentheses fascism? Oh, that is an unjustifiable hierarchy, I feel like.
I don't know. Lights out doesn't hit the same ever since like they made devices that are backlit. Sorry.
Damn. He just cooked you. This guy doesn't care about your plight, anarchist. You should tell him about how nap time is an unjustifiable hierarchy, because it is. Okay? If you want to do finger painting during nap time, you should be allowed to do so. You did not democratically vote for that. Anyway, weird that you're quiet about Sydney Sweeney doing eugenicist propaganda, though. I'm not. I have seen it. It's shocking. But I guess it's like a sign of times.
President Trump says he never.
Oh, here's my
never
goat, dude. Wolf. My King Wolf. Cover it, King. Cover it. Wolf Blitzer is my problematic fave. He was an AIPAC spokesperson. He was an AIPAC PR guy. But I don't know. Well, one, I know that he like vaguely knows of me for some weird reason. And I don't know why. But two, I'm a weird Wolf Blitzer fan. He's my problematic fave.
I think I'm past having feelings about Wolf Blitzer. He's just kind of there. He's been there like my whole life.
Yeah, he's an institution. That's what it is.
I mean, but it's like I don't have a capacity. Like I used to have so many takes about how like he like barely understands a lot of the stuff he talks about or whatever. But now I no longer have those takes or whatever. Just he's just become one with the news.
I think that's why I like him, because Jake Tapper has like hate in his heart.
Oh yeah, no, Jake Tapper has like a noxious worldview, and he tries to express it and insert it into how he understands.
Yeah,
and
whereas Wolf Blitzer
news.
is what you see is what you get. I mean, clearly he's. I'm sure he's very pro-Israel. I mean,
he has like obviously one of the dopest names.
Yeah,
in TV.
Like I'm sure he's very pro-Israel. Literally worked for AIPAC. But I think what you just described is why I like him. That is like he's affable. Because he's just like, yeah, I'm delivering the news to you and doing my very best to not give you any sort of opinion behind the news. He just always looks like he's shocked too. I don't know why. Maybe it's his hairline. That's my goat.
Jeffrey Epstein's private island. Listen.
I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to.
One of my very good moments. I missed that part.
Those comments come as attorneys for the longtime Epstein accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, are expected to make their final pitch to the U.S. Supreme Court as they look to try to overturn her conviction. She's currently serving 20 years in prison. Let's discuss with CNN's senior legal analyst and former state and federal prosecutor, Ellie Honig. Ellie, thanks for joining us. Walk us through where things stand with Maxwell's expected Supreme Court appeal.
So, Wolf, back in 2008, when Jeffrey Epstein was prosecuted by Justice Department prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida, he was given an outrageously lenient plea deal. And in addition to all the sentencing benefits that Jeffrey Epstein was given, there was a really unusual provision in that deal, which said that none of Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators will be prosecuted in that district. Now, fast forward to 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell gets indicted in the Southern District of New York, a different part of the Justice Department. And Maxwell has argued both at the trial court and the Court of Appeals that that deal DOJ made back in 2008 benefits her. It says she can't be prosecuted if DOJ says she's one of the co-conspirators. However, DOJ's position up until now, including now, has been that that deal was only binding on the prosecutors in Florida, not on prosecutors in New York, and that kind of deal, releasing co-conspirators, is basically invalid because it's so much against public interest. So judges have ruled against Maxwell at the trial court level and at the Federal Court of Appeals level, and now Maxwell is down to her last hope, which is trying to get the U.S. Supreme Court to take up this issue.
I would love to see which of the 9 Supreme Court justices buys that argument from her.
So the Supreme Court statistically takes only a very small proportion of all cases brought to it, under 10%, usually under 5%, usually in the range of 2 or 3% recently. On the one hand, Wolf, there have been different interpretations of this issue in different circuits around the country, which is usually a factor that makes it more likely the Supreme Court will take the case. On the other hand, though, the Supreme Court was brought this same exact issue in a separate case a few years ago and declined to hear it then. So maybe they've had a change of heart. So I would say overall it is unlikely but not impossible that the Supreme Court takes this case.
If this appeal fails, Ellie, what other legal avenues could Maxwell's team pursue?
So it's clear that Ghislaine Maxwell now is making a play for some sort of leniency. She got a 20-year sentence. She's about 5 years into that sentence, and she's in her mid-60s. The other way she could get relief, or there's really 2 main ways. One is to hope for a pardon or a commutation, and we've seen
various comments made by the president refusing to rule that out, saying he hasn't thought about it. But the other one is Maxwell can try to convince DOJ prosecutors, and this may be what's part of behind the meeting that she had last week. She can try to convince the DOJ to write a letter, what we call a Rule 35 letter, to a court saying, yes, she's already been convicted and sentenced. However, she's been cooperative. Her cooperation was helpful. And therefore, Judge, we ask you to resentence her to something lower. Now, DOJ should be very careful about when they write those letters, especially in a case like this. But it is theoretically and procedurally possible.
As you know, Ellie, this morning, President Trump once again spoke about whether he could pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. I want you to listen to what he said specifically. Listen to this.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it.
So what stands out to you about those comments from Trump?
He's going to do it.
I don't know, Wolf. This boggles my mind. It's the same response he's been giving. Will you consider a pardon for a convicted child sex trafficker?
Listen, if you can get her to say that you were actually like the coolest and most normal and upstanding guy who ever encountered Epstein,
he does have
then
the power, as unseemly as it might be, and then says, I haven't thought about it. I mean, that's the same answer that Donald Trump has given many times in the past.
All right, I'm convinced
with
he's
other
going to
people
pardon
who
her,
he
man.
did end up pardoning or commuting.
It's
so
happening.
Obviously, there will be a serious political cost to
there's
doing
just
that.
no
but I
reason
think
for
it's
him
pretty
not
telling that
to.
Donald
When
Trump has said
you
anything
consider
other
like
than
all the shit he's done that makes no sense.
How
and,
come
like,
when you're the goat, dude.
interview,
Yeah,
the
when
other
you're the
day,
best. They got no, like, who's gonna say anything?
with the Justice Department's Deputy Attorney General factor into what we are seeing happening next?
Well, I think the play we're going to see from Maxwell's team is obvious and the right play from any defense lawyer's perspective, which is to make an argument to DOJ. Look, she has now come forward. She has given you valuable, truthful information. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that'll be what Maxwell's attorney says. And therefore, we want you to go to a court and ask for sentencing leniency. From DOJ's perspective, it's a little bit unclear what exactly they're doing. I am skeptical that Ghislaine Maxwell is anywhere near credible enough to sign up as a cooperator and to bring other indictments based on her information. I cannot envision myself ever having done that. It would shock me if DOJ did that. So maybe they're just trying to get her information. Maybe they have some interest in getting whatever she said out there to the public to try to appease critics. But there's an interesting sort of political and legal dance happening here between the parties.
I want to play some of what Republican Congressman Thomas Massie said about the possibility of subpoenaing Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Listen to this.
I think we should get a lot more than just the book. Let's get the financial records of the estate. Follow the money, as they say up here. We should look at the plea bargain, open that up.
I like that Thomas Massey's looking less wet as of late. Bro, why do you say no to when I ask if you want food? Okay. Keith Edwards, here's how it's about to go down. Ghislaine names a bunch of Democrats, maybe tosses in a few billionaires. Well, I mean, this is my take too. Yeah, she says Trump did nothing wrong. MAGA praises her for taking down pedophiles. Trump pardons her for telling the truth. Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
I mean, it's also, I mean, look, if you're not convinced that Trump isn't a, sexual abuser guy because of the word of a convicted sex trafficker, then I don't know who he is literally possibly going to give a sentence commutation to, who he has already refused to reveal the files because we know he was in the files. And without those files, we have no way to match what Ghislaine's testimony looks like with the truth, with like an unbiased third-party investigation. I mean, the thing is like once upon a time, like a number of years ago, the way that this would have been handled was that somebody would have appointed a special prosecutor. Like the Mueller probe is kind of a recent example of this, but really I'm thinking about like Patrick Fitzgerald, who's like a Bush era figure in that way. And they would have like created somebody who would be like an independent prosecutor empowered by the Justice Department and, given powers and specific insulation from the president so they could get to the bottom of the matter and then release a report that is ultimately the result of a negotiation with the president and so on, which, fine. It would have been like the traditional way to handle this, but Trump doesn't let stuff happen that he can't control to a completion, essentially. And the circumstances of this do seem to suggest that it also is actually not like set aside propriety, set aside what Trump does or doesn't do, you know, like in terms of keeping with or breaking from tradition. It really does seem like Trump doesn't actually, he can't let somebody be rooting around. Like even if they appointed some Law and Order Republican style guy to be an independent, you know, special counsel or whatever.
I
like,
will say this
it would
much.
them. Like, I think that what could turn up would be genuinely damaging, especially if, by the way, the Wall Street Journal, not, you know, the Huffington Post, you know, credible news sources, but again, like something that is
like
Rupert Murdoch
run by a right-wing billionaire. Bro, you can't be talking about this lame and unimportant story still. I can't tell if people are doing that to just like LARP as Trump or Trump defenders, or if they, I don't know. I can't, I just don't understand whenever people say that. Because this is a fairly important story, especially because I think if in the stupid ways that the Trump administration, in the short-sighted ways that the Trump administration operates, where because they have no one who's like smart in the room that says, dude, you can't say Bill Clinton's a pedophile, because if you do that, Bill Clinton's going to come out and be like, well, you were in the room, kids too. You know what I mean? Like, if it's mutually assured pedophilia destruction, and these guys don't realize that, and then they just like haphazardly throw out a couple names that are like Democrats or maybe even like Republican billionaires that Trump doesn't like, okay, that will, in my opinion, open up the floodgates from the other side as well.
I think it's possible. It's just that it does seem though that like the mutually assured pedophile destruction like thesis, for it to be like fully true, like if it fully plays out like that, then you know there would have to be like knowledge among these parties of one another, and it would not have to be like a pretty siloed thing. And I don't know, like it's. I mean, this is what's so frustrating. Even if you've read the Julie K. Brown book and all this stuff, it does remain, because a lot of the investigation and a lot of the examination of how the stuff worked, like there remains a lot of secrecy and unknown about how compartmentalized it was. How many of the people who knew Epstein knew each other in the context of Epstein. I mean, this is, you know, these are all, by the way, like because Epstein seems to have palled around with so many people who are so influential in society, not just because they were successful actors or filmmakers or celebrity real estate developers, but also because they were future heads of the CIA, like Bill Burns, for example. It does seem like, yeah, this is why you should have an independent public commission or a congressional committee that would examine this.
Yeah, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that can happen, like you said, because like too many people are implicated.
I think it could happen. It just is like, it requires, like, it's generational, right? Like there's a lot, like if you are below a certain age, right? There's just no chance that you're implicated in Epstein stuff aside from like if a donor you have or something. Like you can't get like there's, it's just mathematically impossible, you know? And so I think that there is like, it's just a matter of time, and it may not be soon, and it may not be, you know, again, like the JFK assassination, for example, or the House Select Committee on Assassinations, which investigated the JFK assassination, the MLK assassination, the
I don't
RFK.
think they're competent enough to do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that took like 15 years after the fact, is my point.
Yeah.
Like, and I do believe that if this case continues to hold this kind of purchase over the public imagination and ends up feeling like, you know, directly tied to why people still feel the world is up, then I could see it. I could see something like that developing. It just seems that like right now, obviously there are too many faves are implicated for any modicum of transparency that we would consider real transparency to emerge. And that's not, I'm not trying to express like a cynicism about that. It's just, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if there's no like high profile target in the revelations, the base will want more. That's what I think too. Cause like, if they only simply say, like, they don't even say Bill Clinton was a pedophile in it.
Yeah.
Then people are going to be like, but we know Bill Clinton is a pedophile. Like, what do you mean?
It is like they've got to make sure that if they do the limited hangout route, that they've got to have enough. I actually do think people,
but they have to say But if they say Bill Clinton's a pedophile, then Bill Clinton could turn around and be like, well, you're a pedophile too. We're all pedophiles.
I think Clinton is also in a category of like, there's not like, there's certain people who I think are just untouchable because like they are load bearing individuals within like the constellation of the American power elite. And Bill Clinton is that kind of person, even in his advanced age and so on, because he is part of what has made, you know, again, like an entire like node of the Democratic aligned power elite like function. And by the way, that's now connected and expand, you know, that like, and because this is just how elite reproduction works. It's not like a, you know, conspiracy. I mean, you could frame it that way if one wanted, but like, it's like, yeah. And now like Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Global Initiative are, you know, I mean, I think a better example obviously would be Huma Abedin marrying Alex Soros. Like there's like these are like
a royal marriage.
Exactly. Like this is court politics now is a good way to look at it. And there are certain people who are mainly, again, like I said, they're untouchable just because they're load bearing elites within the system. And even though lots of people will say, oh, Bill Clinton's a pedophile.
So you think Bill Clinton's a load bearing pedophile? And therefore, even if he's outed, he's still untouchable. Is that what you're saying?
I think that he won't be outed. I think that like what has been like, I know,
but if he's not outed, then people are going to say our appetite is still great. It's obvious. If you don't say Bill Clinton's a pedophile and everybody knows he's a pedophile already, then people are going to be like, oh, this is fake. It's going to lead Trump's base into understandably stating that this is a fraudulent list.
I think though that like it's the list and the files itself though misapprehends even a little bit though about what ultimately could whet people's appetite about this stuff, which would be revealing what the was Epstein's relationship to the CIA, to the Mossad, to MI6.
But I think at first, before Trump like started basically communicating to the public with the way he's like dealt with the story that he might have actually literally kids, like diddled children alongside Jeffrey Epstein. I always was under the assumption that he was just like protecting the elite. And maybe the reason why he had like communicated differently prior to the election, as opposed to after the election when he won, was because of Israel. So I think because of the way he has responded to this, now I think I used to be of the mindset that he actually severed ties with Epstein in like 2003. And then that was it. That he was like one of the people that actually lucked out. That like it was weird that he had Alex Acosta on as his labor secretary. But I used to be of the mindset that like he was clearly very heavily involved up until like 2003. And then there's not really much we know of in terms of their relationship.
I could agree with
now
that.
I feel like there's got to be more because hiding this shit so sloppily.
But it's, you know, this is where it's like, I believe there's more, but I believe to me, the more is less about like, who are the bold-faced names that were people who like had sex with children or whomever, whatever it was, because of Epstein or did, you know, crimes with him on his island. And it's again, more about like the scandal and the thing everybody's like playing catch up to try and protect is the involvement of like governments and powerful interests who, you know, people who are supposed to act, institutions that are supposed to represent a greater good at all times, even if it's a greater good we disagree with, you know, working with the unspeakable, working with and using methods that are perhaps also unspeakable.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I do feel that like we really do mostly already know what we could ever really get to know about who are like the big names that were doing stuff with Epstein. What remains to be seen is just like what are the details of those relationships?
Yeah, and
from
also,
Leon Black on down.
Yeah, and also the financial ties, like how he made his money, who was doing the wire transfers, and like following the paper trail of Jeffrey Epstein, this complex web of financial elite, and like what kind of involvement they had. Was he money laundering for them? Things of that nature, alongside his relationship to intelligence communities like around the globe. But those are the things that they will never uncover, I think. Like no administration would ever do that.
I think there will eventually be like witnesses come out, people start talking, we learn more all the time, even if it's like morsel by morsel. But it's again, it's always, it's contingent, right? Like if we learn a lot about this stuff. It will be contingent on things changing in the world as it is right now that open up those possibilities. For example, like the American-Israel relationship, for one, how stable the faith in American elites that people have, depending on whether or not they can afford milk.
My bad. This guy cracked the case, bro. He had stocks, listed him as the CEO. That's what it was, dude. You should reveal this information to the many different committees that have investigated this. I didn't realize like that's what
he has stocks.
Dude, he has stocks. Man, he was a day trader. Dude, he was a day trader and he was a CEO. That's why Les Wexner gave him power of attorney.
One of the other ones I think that I learned. Did you see that? Have you seen the Powerball thing?
What?
Search Google Epstein Powerball or Zorro Trust Powerball.
No, is that? I thought that was a Felix bit. That's real. That's a real thing that they've.
Just Google it. I'm not kidding. I thought, oh, that has to be fake.
No, there's no way. No. Oklahoma State Forums.
No, wait, no. There was one.
There's nothing.
There's a good. I love this conspiracy.
Trust keeps Powerball winner a mystery. Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Trust claims $85 million Powerball ticket in 2008. A financial planning company based in Oklahoma City received $29.3 million on Monday on behalf of the Zorro Trust, which held the winning ticket from the July 2nd drawing. Did you know Epstein r/lottery? Did you know that Epstein won $29.3 million sum?
Apparently decided to use the same name for damn. That is crazy though. The top comment on Reddit.
Oh, I didn't.
No, go back to reopen the Reddit.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. So look at the top comment.
But the Oklahoma City newspaper, the Oklahoman, did a little more digging and discovered that the anonymous winner worked in a grocery store across the street from the convenience store where the winning ticket was sold. Apparently, she decided to use the same name for her trust as Epstein did for his.
That's incredible. That's incredible. That's so good. I'd seen this like lottery thing flying around and I figured it'd be a funny thing to look into on stream. But yeah, this was like flying around. And I was like, I'm curious about this. And I saw that the Zorro Trust piece of it was true, but I was just like, all right, there's got to be something more to that. That's
I don't think
funny.
I thought that was a meme that Felix was putting out there.
But that is like a great, like, I don't believe there's a conspiracy there. Like if the newspaper reporter found it, like, and it's not like Zorro is a like secret word, but that is mad funny. Imagine like you're like, oh, I'm gonna use an LLC name for my lottery winnings, and then the one you pick happens to be Jeffrey Epstein's.